G'day, welcome back to DC Extra. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be diving back into my adventures with Superman, Season 3, with Episode 3, titled All's Fair in Love and Worms, where we meet Giganta and discover some more hidden references to the wider DC universe. So let's get right into it. This episode opens up on an ad targeted at Jimmy, voiced over by someone named Zazzala, the CEO of a company called the World Organization for Romantic Matchmaking Science, or W.O.R.M.S for short, as this episode's title refers to. In the comics, Zazzala is the name of a Justice League villain, known as Queen Bee. She has a variety of different powers, including flight, mind control, and telepathy. In this episode, we only see the flight of that. She even leads a criminal organization called Hive at one point, who try to make the world a better place through artificial human evolution, something which we sort of see in this episode, although it's not Zazzala behind it, it's more Giganta. The chief biologist of worms, Tazala, is the partner to Zazzala, claiming they met through the romantic sciences they are now selling. In the comics, however, Tazala was the name of Zazzala's sister, even adopting the moniker of Queen Bee herself at one point. Jimmy is invited to W.O.R.M.S' launch event to find romance. He seems very excited, while Clark and Lois are not very supportive. Lois advocating for him to stop playing games and just ask Kara out, as he's been flirting with her over the past 2 episodes. Jimmy absolutely ignores that advice and insists on going to the event, even trying to invite Clark, but he quickly just says no. Clark meanwhile shows Lois a model house he bought from last episode. Inside it is a model of himself, Lois, and a crib, which freaks Lois out all over again. If you don't remember in episode 1, they had a conversation talking about a farmhouse and starting a family, but Lois felt very rushed by this, given that they have not been dating for too long. She doesn't bring up her feelings though, pretending that she is fine.
I'm great!
After the intro sequence, we see the same shot as we saw in last episode, where I pointed out a few of the billboards here. But now I've actually figured out one of the other ones. On the very left, its logo is for worms. And I didn't know that last episode because I didn't know what W.O.R.M.S was. In last episode, we also saw the introduction of Cyborg Superman. For now though, he is just going by Captain Hank Henshaw. We see him stop a purse snatcher here, quite violently though, claiming that Superman is too lenient on criminals and he has to punish them. Kara goes to Jimmy and Clark's apartment to meet Jimmy. Only he isn't there, and Lois greets her instead. She manipulates Kara into getting into a competition with Jimmy, with the end goal of making him her mate, or as you know, people from Earth say, boyfriend. The plan is to use a dating app called Crush Rush to find dates and make Jimmy jealous, playing at his own game. Meanwhile, at the W.O.R.M.S event, Jimmy and a con Clark give their first impressions of the place. Clark quickly leaves though, unimpressed, while Jimmy meets Zazzala and Tazala, who we just learned broke up, so I'm sure their romantic sciences are absolutely flawless. Lois helps Kara make her Crush Rush profile, but she realizes that Kara doesn't really have any interest to put in her profile, so they hit the town.
We are going to punch the town! Hit the town!
Oh, okay.
Clark meanwhile makes his way to an on-fire yacht that was carrying some lovable dogs. He even tries to adopt one, but since he was there as Superman, he can't really provide a government ID when asked. Back at W.O.R.M.S, Jimmy meets his soil mate. She seems very interested in him, if only because of his proximity to Superman and Kryptonite. She introduces herself as Doris, or nickname Gigi. This here is Doris Zul from the comics, better known as Giganta, and that name is potentially where Gigi comes from. In the comics, she is typically an enemy to Wonder Woman. Their first conversation is quite a weird one, where Doris sprays something out of a can, shoves chocolate in Jimmy's mouth, and pricks him with a needle. These all seem to have been a way to quote-unquote change him, as she puts it, but that seems to be a mild way of putting it, as he starts to transform into a wolf. Back with Lois and Kara, they visit a mall. On the outside of it, some more billboards. There is another one for Core Tech, which we discussed from last episode, but there is also one for Amethyst. While probably not a direct indication of the character existing in this universe, there is a character in the comics known as Amethyst. The gem-like logo also aligns with this, as she comes from a dimension known as Gemworld. Kara seems to love the mall, while Lois just seems a bit fed up. Meanwhile, Henshaw fights Intergang after a robbery of LexCorp. Before he does too much damage, Superman steps between them, fighting Henshaw himself before asking for the stolen tech back. Just as Henshaw is about to fire at Superman, Deathstroke puts a protective force field around him, saying the boss wants to talk to him. The boss being Lex Luthor, of course, as we saw at the end of last week's episode. Lois and Kara explore a record store, with Kara enjoying listening to a bunch of music. Can't help but draw some parallels with this scene and the Supergirl movie, as a big part of the marketing for that was Kara's enjoyment of music, even wearing similar headphones. Here though, Lois shows her a band she enjoys, called Black Canary, an obvious reference to the superheroine Black Canary, or Dinah Drake Lance, who actually was a singer at one point in the comics, part of a band named Ashes on Sunday. Kara seems more interested to discover all the songs in the store. We even get a bit of a musical number here. Through the course of this song, Lois and Kara are in a maternity store, reminding her once again of Clark's insistence of starting a family. We see some rings on display, obviously meant to be wedding rings to further intimidate Lois, but among them is actually a Green Lantern ring. Don't really know how that got there, but it might be where Jessica Cruz from last episode gets hers in the upcoming My Adventures with Green Lantern. Either that or it's just a really cool replica. I mean, even I have one on my shelf. Does that mean I'm Green Lantern? Probably not. The lyrics of the song they sing are twofold, one from Lois's perspective and one from Kara's. While Kara insists on embracing the future, Lois is scared of what it will hold, afraid to give up what she has now. We'll get more on this a bit later. At LexCorp, Lex watches the news where for the first time Hank Henshaw is called Cyborg Superman, showing him to be capable of great violence. Despite Lex asking him to show some more restraint, Henshaw goes against his creator. But Luthor of course has a contingency, able to take away his powers at a moment's notice. Back at W.O.R.M.S, Jimmy gets an antidote for his new wolf appearance, but things don't go exactly according to plan.
I've had a lovely time.
Oh no! I'm not.
Clark begins brainstorming names for the dog he wants to adopt, going through Bark Kent, Snowy, and he was about to say Crypto before getting interrupted. Crypto obviously being his dog's name in the comics, but Bark Kent is also a reference to his alter ego in the animated movie DC's League of Super Pets. Jimmy calls Clark for help for the third time now, despite not facing an emergency, but that quickly changes as Gigi sprays herself with the same formula she used on Jimmy earlier, but instead of her turning herself into a wolf, she transforms into Giganta, growing to the size of a building. Jimmy gets picked up by her as she runs through the city. Towering over the buildings, she even climbs up the Daily Planet like King Kong, saying she will be turning him gigantic too. Superman arrives on the scene, but can't take her down without hurting Jimmy. So after learning about how Zazzala and Tazzala dissolved Jimmy's bones earlier into spaghetti, basically, he asks them to do the same on Giganta. Fortunately, that plan works out. After Superman saved Giganta from plummeting to the ground, she quickly switches her admirations from Jimmy to Clark.
Ma'am, I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm in a committed relationship.
Lois finally confronts Clark about her reservations when it comes to settling down, saying she doesn't want to lose the fun and adventure. Jimmy and Kara debate who won their little contest, each claiming it was them, as Kara had more matches, but Jimmy had one gigantic one. After Clark and Lois agree to properly sit down and discuss their future when they are alone, we cut to the future, looking quite grim. The visual design here contrasts very well against the bright and colourful metropolis of the present. Here we see a dark and red of the future. We see a young man in a Superman outfit run towards a laboratory, where a now bald-headed Lex sends him to the past to prevent this future from ever happening. This here is obviously Superboy. It gives some merit to a theory I've had, that the Superboy in this TV show will actually be Lois and Clark's son from the future. Now, depending on how far in the future this is, that could very well be the case. Of course, since he is working with Lex, there is still a possibility of him being a clone created by Lex, so we'll just have to wait and see which one ends up happening. I do like the idea of him being their son a little better though, as it also ties into the focus on family that these first 3 episodes have shown. Anyway, that is it for this episode. Overall, keeping consistent with the first 2, focusing on the blooming relationship between Jimmy and Kara, while also placing importance on the idea of Clark and Lois starting a family. interested to see where next episode goes, assuming that Clark and Lois will meet Superboy in that one, but we'll have to wait another week to see just what happens. So until then, that is all for now. Hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, do consider leaving a like and subscribing so YouTube knows to recommend you more videos like this one. And turn on your notifications so you know as soon as my next breakdown comes out. But until then, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing you.